Hello and good morning, and welcome to Cargo Port News, a comprehensive online platform for professional enrichment. My name is Sundara, and I work with Cargo Port News to create and provide educational video content on shipping, logistics, international trade, and cargo handling industry. Please do subscribe to Cargo Port News channel on the YouTube and click on the bell button to receive updates on these unique lessons on transportation business and shipping industry. Please note that this video content is only for educational purpose and not a business or investment recommendation. Welcome back. This video number 111 is part 1 of the lesson on GenCon 1994 Uniform General Charter. In this video, we will gain some knowledge on how charter parties are structured and standardized by BIMCO and ASBA. We'll also examine some of the clauses mentioned in the documents, and alongside we will also learn about the bill of lading, which directly depends on the underlying charter party. Before learning any further, we need to resolve the two different usages of the word freight. The word freight has one meaning as the cargo itself, and the second meaning is that the cargo requires some amount to be charged to be carried on a vessel. So, the word freight is also used to indicate the amount charged to carry such cargo on a vessel. We need to be comfortable with the usage of these two meanings. There are two important international organizations for standardizing the charter party documents. One, the BIMCO, which stands for the Baltic and International Maritime Council, which is in Copenhagen, Denmark, and ASPA, the American Ship Brokers Association, based in New Jersey, USA. BIMCO standardizes and makes available many charter party documents that cover different types of charters, cargo types, and even vessel types. ASPA also does the same thing, creating such documents as the ASBA Tankwai, a popular charter party. So, GenCon 1994 has clauses that deal with specific issues of concern, such as the deviation clause that deals with the deviation of the ship and its route if and when necessary. Then there is this collision clause and war related issues and such clauses that impact the work on the ship. So we need to have a good professional and working understanding of these clauses before we start using these documents. On careful examination, we can notice that many of these clauses in the bill of lading find mention in the original charter party itself. For example, the cargo quantity, the port names, both load port and disport, the collision clauses, the weather related risk issues, and many more. All these things find mention in both documents, and it's easy to understand why. Before we move any further, we need to learn about the load line. The load line or the Plimsoll diagram is a highly useful diagram placed on both sides of the ship. It helps us on how much cargo can be loaded on various weather conditions for different cargo types. It is pictured in different ways by different classification societies. The one that you are seeing is originally made by the Lloyd's Register. We might do further research on our own to gain more knowledge from the internet. We would also clearly have to understand the difference between the bill of lading and the charter party document. Gen Con is a charter party and is signed before anything else begins to happen. It's the first step. The bill of lading, on the other hand, is a document given by the captain of the vessel on behalf of the owners of the ship as a proof that the cargo has been accepted and loaded into the ship and is ready to be taken to the discharge port as per the terms and conditions of the charter party. Both the charter party and the bill of lading might sometimes have some common data. For example, the name of the cargo, the name of the vessel, and the name of the owner. We need a strategy to learn both BOL and the CP together. The strategy can be like this: study each of the data entry boxes and the charter clauses. Carefully form definitions of each of these new terms in our mind and put together smaller concepts to form bigger clause meanings. The ship owner could be an individual person, but in most cases, it is a company. Please be careful about the way you understand the meaning of the word charter. This could again be a company or maybe chartering a vessel either for themselves or to further sublease or subcharter the vessel's capacity to several other third party subcharters. In any case, the people who own the cargo get to receive the bill of lading and not any one of the companies in the charter to subcharter chain. A shipper is the one who owns the cargo or who is moving the cargo on behalf of the owner. The shipper has in fact nothing to do with the ship, but everything to do with the cargo. On the other hand, a carrier is the one who is operating the ship to perform its cargo carriage services. Either the owners by themselves or the charters during the course of the charter party, in effect, become the carriers for legal purpose. Every ship charter is pretty much likely to have a chartered ship broker who brings both the owners and charters together and helps the fixture happen. A broker gets paid a specific amount of money as brokerage for each of the fixtures they help to happen. A fixture is also a relevant term meaning a contract that has been successfully negotiated with all the terms and conditions fully understood and accepted by both the owner and the charters. The GenCon charter party specifies the names of load port agents and disport agents. The agents represent the interests of the ship or the charters in the ports that the ship may have to call under the charter party. The agents have very clearly marked duties and responsibilities, such as representing the ship's interests with the port authorities and paying all such dues on behalf of the ship, as well as pay the crew if and when necessary. Agents are paid the expenses and their service charges based on the so called statement of facts. As I already mentioned, the name of the ship could change one or more times during the course of its working life. Any inconsistency in the name of the vessel in the documents could lead to insurance benefit denials or face the other issues with port authorities. So it's very important that the name of the vessel be consistent in each and every document, whether it is a ship's document or the cargo related document. Remember, the tonnage and tons both are different. Gross tonnage is a function of the volume of all of a ship's enclosed spaces. A ship is generally having enclosed spaces and open spaces. In the gross tonnage, we are concerned about those spaces which are enclosed, and GT is a function of such total volume. The net tonnage, on the other hand, is used to calculate the port duties and should not be taken as less than 30% of the ship's gross tonnage. The dead weight is the sum of the weight of the cargo, fuel, fresh water, ballast, the ballast water, provisions, passengers, and the crew. Many times the ship requires such preparation to come to the state or condition of the ability to actually accept cargo. So, the condition of being ready to load is very important, and it should be in that condition by a specified date, and that specified date is given as the expected date of ready to load. Now, once the ship is actually ready to load, the captain or the cargo mate is expected to issue a so-called notice of readiness. Usually, a date is accepted by both parties on which the said readiness will be achieved. Now, let's see the process of loading. The process of loading is as in the following simple steps. Once the vessel is ready to load, it should reach the loading port and be always afloat. Please remember, the word always afloat has a huge context, a huge importance, and is highly legal word. Then the vessel should load a full and complete cargo. If deck cargo is permitted, then it should also be carried out subject to charter's risk and responsibility. And finally, the ship should proceed to the discharge port, and there it should deliver the cargo. These are the few simple steps that may appear to be simple but might have complicated workflows within themselves. Now, besides these explained concepts, we need to watch out for these additional important points. Some of them are like this: the lay time calculation. The lay time calculation is a very important bone of contention between many parties in many legal cases. So, the lay time calculation and the understanding of the concept is very, very important for everyone in shipping industry. Then there is this deviation clause. So also are the freight calculation and payment, the cargo handling gear, stevedoring damage, demurrage, lien. The cancelling clause, the bills of lading, both to blame collision clause, the general average, the new JSON clause, brokerage, general strike, war risk, and arbitration. These points need to be understood very clearly if you need to understand and learn the heart of any charter party document. So, in the upcoming 2 or more parts of this lesson, all the previously mentioned additional important clauses will be discussed in the video lessons number 112 and 113. Before we close this video lesson, I have a simple question. Have you subscribed to Cargo Port News? For a low price of Rs 1000 per year, subscribing to the premium bi-weekly newsletter of Cargo Port News gives you a number of benefits. First, you get a bi-weekly roundup of industry news that you may have missed. Second, at least 2 subject videos that discuss some key topic on shipping and transportation industry are also provided. Third is a monthly download of a new Excel VBA software application for use in your office work. Finally, the fourth benefit is that you can place a classified advertisement once in every month for 12 months. This amazing offer is only for a limited time. So please do subscribe right away before the prices go up. This is Sundara Thanks for watching.